here's Brody Brazil.
Hello, YouTube. Thanks for joining me here on Saturday, November 21st, 2020. Late afternoon, things are getting chilly. It really is feeling like football weather. Cold weather. It's a college football Saturday here across the United States, and an interesting one at that. Think about this. Let me break this down for you here. The matchups. Ohio at Miami of Ohio. Canceled. UAB at UTEP. Canceled. Ole Miss at Texas A&M. Postponed. Georgia Tech at Miami. Postponed. Charlotte at Marshall. Postponed. Arizona State at Colorado. Canceled. UL Monroe at Louisiana Tech. Canceled. You can see where this is going. Wake Forest at Duke. Postponed. Navy at Florida. University of South Florida, postponed. Houston at Southern Methodist, postponed. Central Arkansas at Louisiana Lafayette, canceled. Utah State at Wyoming, canceled. Texas at Kansas, postponed. UNLV at Colorado State. That one obviously postponed. Maryland at Michigan State, canceled. San Jose State at Fresno State, canceled. Another weekend of double-digit games that were postponed or canceled, and all for very good reasons, right? We're dealing with sports during a global pandemic, but it's starting to get to the point where some questions have to be asked. And I was initially going to come on here and say, what's the point of college football anymore here in 2020? But I honestly feel like saying it in that sense is a bit disrespectful. I want to make this very clear. I have a lot of friends who work in college sports, whether they're broadcasters, whether they're coaches, whether they work for respective schools or conferences. I don't want to diminish any of that, nor do I want to take away from the hardworking people that love sports like I do, right? So I don't want to be disrespectful with this. I'm not going to say what's the point, but I am here to ask, what is the end game currently of college sports in 2020? Are you still trying to get to a national championship? Is that in the works? Is that an idea? Because I feel like the legitimacy of the season has probably already been compromised 2 weeks in a row of this. And by the way, I'll get to more of the health situation in just a second. You're staring it right in the face. It's only getting worse, and there's no immediate sign of things getting better. All the ingredients are in the making for the situation, the statistics, the bigger picture to not be any better than it is right now. So you're trying to get to a national championship. That doesn't seem like it's a go. Are you just trying to keep conferences alive? Are you trying to play games for business reasons? Because in a sense, that's not even working. Are you trying to help college seniors and college prospects? Are you trying to help them showcase themselves here for the NFL? Because in reality, this season's going to be questioned in a lot of different ways, even by professional leagues. I'm not sure that in itself is even the best reason right now. Are you doing this to keep as many people employed as you can? Possibly, and I do understand that. But I also ask, now as the risk gets greater, where do you draw the line of trying to have good intentions versus the actuality of the situation? And yeah, last but not least, are you doing this to make money for the schools? Everybody wants to. Everybody needs to. College football is what drives the rest of the sports in the collegiate ecosystem. College football is the moneymaker, clearly. You need that. You need that for everything else to be fueled. So there's no question of why there's a lot of intention to make this happen. But again, I go to what's right there. What is the end game of 2020? The season, unfortunately, in the last couple weekends has turned into a bust. And that's unfortunate. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. Clearly. But again, we've got to this place where it's going to be extremely difficult to continue in any legitimate fashion. And as much as going through baseball season, there was a lot of question about baseball. How would you get this done? Will it mean the same? But what you have to say about the major leagues is that they planned out 60 games for every team, and they basically got that done. They played doubleheaders when they had to, and they were fortunate to have that luxury. But at this point, college football, there's no making this up. And again, you're only looking at a situation where this problem is only going to intensify. And that brings me to the next point here. Is kind of like reading the room. Now, even when college football started and got underway, there was some question late summer, would there be a college football campaign? Initially, no. The conferences, they mulled it over and they said this is not doable. But then they looked at the bigger picture, they looked at the resources, they made the decision to proceed forward with it at a certain point because things across the country were looking a little bit more promising. And I understand making a decision in late July into mid-August, that's a totally different ballgame than here the first 2 weeks of November, 3 weeks now of November, where essentially COVID-19 positive cases have tripled, more than tripled in the last 3 weeks. We knew there was a possibility of this happening. And when I say read the room, what you see on the screen here, what I'm asking is, do you really want to be pushing your product in a time like this where you don't necessarily have all the same resources? And that's going to be my last point here. You know, you'll say, well, why do you think the NFL should proceed? Why do you think the NBA should continue on with their plans to start right after Christmas? Why do you think the NHL should be able to begin in January? I'll tell you why in just a couple minutes, because that's a very much apples and oranges situation here. In terms of college football, is this how you want to be operating? Is this when you want to be operating? Is this the history you want to be creating right now that 10 and 20 years from now we'll look back on this and say, you guys were playing all these games and just going on when you could see the stats and the numbers and, you know, a not encouraging outlook. You just kept trudging through. It's okay. It is not a failure for college football to say, this isn't working. There's no end game in sight anymore. We tried. We're just going to have to shut down. There should be no ill feelings about that. I understand some people are going to lose out on different things, but it's understandable. It's no individual's fault that they tried this and they realized and the situation dictated that it wasn't able to continue. So I do want to make that point there. Next thing I want to talk about here, well, why is the college situation different than the professional sphere? A couple different reasons. And first, you're seeing, by the way, when Notre Dame won that game a couple weekends ago in South Bend, and their students rushed the field. Now, they are very much masked right there. You'll see plenty of them without masks, and there was a lot of criticism of this several weeks ago. I watched it as it happened. Quite honestly, couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I was very interested to see how people would respond. But that's not a good look at all. That's a terrible look during the circumstances. And even bigger than that is, this is what you're seeing. I was in college. A lot of you were too. It's about the party atmosphere before a game, after a game. By creating these game environments, you're not just having those kids go to the stadium and watch the game. There's a lot of other stuff, a lot of other irresponsible situations that they're all getting into. And I'm talking about fans here. This is let alone the athletes. This is more about fans. There are situations that are created by college football that are not good during a pandemic. People getting together to celebrate football like they normally do, like they normally should. It doesn't work the same here in this situation. And also there's the thought that, well, these are adults. They're 18 and older. I'm talking about the players now. They know the decision they're making. They totally understand what they're getting themselves into. Come on. I'm going to talk about the professional level in the very end of this, but think about amateur sports. Think about 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds. They listen to and they basically obey what teachers have always told them, what coaches have always told them. They don't have a second thought other than, I don't want to disappoint my coach. I'm young, I'm healthy, I'll live forever. Didn't you have that feeling of immortality back when you were in your teens and 20s? I did. Everybody did, to a certain extent. The fear level of life is a lot less back then. And I know what you're saying. COVID may not have the same effect on young people. I get it. What happens when all those young people, the fans and the players, when they go home to Thanksgiving dinner with their family, their extended family, aunts, uncles, grandparents? How does that go? So from a sense of playing these games, it's not just the game itself. It's not just the offensive and defensive line, colliding on each other for however many snaps there are in a college football game, more than 100 times. It's all the other stuff that goes around a college football game that make this situation even worse. And then last but not least, I'm calling it copycat syndrome. It's the notion that college football looks at the NFL. It says, well, they're doing this, and we're just as big. I mean, we have the financial resources to do just as good. We should be doing this too. There's a certain peer pressure, I think, the NFL is putting on college football. And check this out. College football is putting that same peer pressure on certain high school programs across the country. Ones that are big enough that think they have all the right tools and resources to play through this pandemic. And I guarantee you, if the pros are barely able to do it, I'm not sure what colleges are thinking. And I definitely don't know what certain high-level high school football programs are thinking. So the copycat syndrome is real. Looking at what everybody else is doing and thinking you're able to do the exact same thing. I've seen how difficult it was for Major League Baseball. I know what the NBA and NHL put into finishing their seasons over the summer. Literally across millions of dollars, not even to play games, just to isolate these players and these athletes and their families and keep them safe. And baseball was out of the bubble, and it had by far the most concerns. And, football's not able to do a bubble type atmosphere. College certainly not able to. So you can just see this up and down the line that college football is looking up and seeing what the NFL's doing. Again, they don't have the same protocols, tools, resources, procedures. They don't have any of the same stuff. And you could question what the NFL's doing. They don't have a flawless track record right now. But, you're trying to bring your family minivan into a NASCAR race. You don't have the same car. You're not equipped the same as Dale Jr. over there, right? You can't compete in this race, even though you have a car and he's got a car. It just doesn't work that way. And again, I say this about college football, but I think the real thing is from college football down to high school level. The high school, scene and atmosphere looks up to that and says, well, if they're doing it, why can't we be doing it too? I think you already know the reason why. So that's going to do it here for November 21st, 2020. I really appreciate you joining me here live on the YouTube channel. Again, doing a lot of these more in the live fashion than pre-recorded, trying to cut down on production time, trying to just give you thoughts as they happen in real time. It was a Saturday. I was thinking about college football, realizing what the situation was, and I just go back to it. What is the end game right now of 2020? Follow me on all your favorite social channels, Twitter, Instagram, and sometimes even Facebook, and also, the podcast. I do put a lot of effort and resources into that, and there's a couple new episodes every week. So if you want to just listen in here and there, usually get the full scale of interviews and thoughts and everything else. It's on Apple, it's on iTunes. Apple is iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play, as well as some other places. So that's going to do it here for YouTube Live on a Saturday. I'm Brody. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. See ya.